And we're recording. Sarah, I'll let you introduce yourself and you can take it away.
Sure. My name is Sarah Coley. I'm the regional coordinator with the SSCM team at ODE, and I'm trying to get to my screen. Sorry about that. Um, I'm really excited to share this presentation about wildfires preparedness for schools today, and the importance of it. So if you are here and you're new, if you wanted to drop your name in the chat and then also what school district you're from, that would be awesome. We're trying to keep track of everybody. We'll go over some things about why wildfire readiness matters, safety for the schools, air quality and heat indexes, planning for student family reunification, and then also some things you can do with the facilities to get them ready for the wildfire season too. Oregon's wildfire reality. So the wildfire season isn't just during the summer months anymore. It's actually effective all the way from May through October. So part of the reason why we think it's important to have a little bit of a deeper lens on it. With the climate change, there are warmer temperatures, drier air, obviously leading to a longer window for the fire to be here. And it's not just something that happens in rural areas anymore. It's actually widespread throughout the entire state. So we're seeing some stuff happen now. Obviously, I saw today that OEM had their ECC activate level 3. So some serious stuff going on in the gorge. I think it's Rowena fire. Um, w with that, Oregon uses a three-tier evacuation system, which I'm sure you're familiar with this signage, level 1, 2, and 3. Our recommendation is that schools are aligning their communication with this. So, for example, level 1, everybody in the community may hear this, prepare to evacuate, while schools could be saying, prep your families, transportation, and begin to do internal coordination. With that, or OR alert or alert is something we're recommending that we're putting out to our communities from the schools. If you're not already signed up with that, or your communities don't use that as a common way to get alerted for things in this realm, then we're recommending that you do so. We'll send a link in the chat for how you can sign up for that or send that out to your community too. Evacuation routes. So Oregon.gov has a great resource that we can use for wildfire evacuation. I just wanted to show really quick what that looks like. This is the website it takes you to when you're there. You can see that there's the same image that we talked about before, and you can go a little bit deeper about what each level looks like. And the great thing about it is you can actually change the languages that they're in. So if you need something in an additional language, you can go ahead and select it here and download it to send out as communication to your community. The other thing is if you go to the dashboard up here, it'll actually open up a window like this where you can filter down by county to see kind of what's going on, and then looking at some of the fires. Obviously, populations and addresses are updated here, but this is one of the larger ones that I was just talking about over in the gorge. And just kind of get a good feel about what's going on. There's a lot of resources out there that you can use, but just one that we like to recommend. After thinking about it from a county perspective, we want to look at it as an actual school site. So a map like this probably looks familiar to you. You should have them in each of your classrooms in its evacuation map. Something that we wanted to emphasize is when you're making these maps to really work with your fire and emergency services when making them, not only for the evacuation route, but for the secondary route too. Also, the assembly areas are great. Something I actually do like about this map, it is a little busy in my opinion, but there is the assembly area call out here, and then there are two additional routes on how to get out. One more thing to note that you might want to make sure your maps do have is I like to use this scenario of when you're at the zoo and you're with your kid and they really have to go to the bathroom and you find one of these crazy looking maps of where the zoo is and you don't know where you're at. So you're always looking for this "you are here" call out. So something important to label, especially when we have the substitutes and those new students in the building. And then reunification. So let's say that you can't be at your site anymore, right? So in the wildfire season, making sure you think about if you have those pre-identified reunification locations, do you have more than one? So can you get there? Is there a wildfire on the way? And then more importantly, can the families and parents get there? So having an additional route outside of what you normally have is very important. And then something to really think about is the reunification sites actually know that they're your reunification site, especially when it's kind of in the off season, at the in those May or September months where they maybe wouldn't typically think that they might have to reunify or help you with that. And then you probably know the reunification method or are using it or planning to use it if you ever need to, but making sure that your staff is actually not the breaking point. Are they trained? Do they know what their jobs are? As a greeter, do they know what to do if there's a parent that comes up and is non-custodial and says they need their kid and they're taking them now? How do they handle that? Are they the right person to handle that? Maybe they don't do great under pressure, but they're really good at teaching the kids in the classroom. And then again, making sure that during a real event, your families are aware of what to expect. So one of our tips is, in addition to having more than one route identified, to make sure you're putting communication out there to your families, maybe in the beginning of the school year about if a reunification happens, here's the communication you're going to get from us, and here's what you do, and here's what you don't do. And then being ready from a facilities point of view to have reunification executed. Do you have like a go box stored somewhere that's labeled with your stickers or your signs, or helping with crowd control or managing a line? Do you have dum-dums in a box ready for some students who maybe have medical needs or need some sugar? Uh, with that, I'd like to go into communication. Reunification won't just happen with a logistical piece. Communication is key. You've probably heard that term coined many times in many different ways, but we know it's very true. So we wanted to emphasize what your communication should be in an emergency in three separate ways. One is multi-platform. Make sure you're using your district app, website, whether it's Parent Square or you have a banner on your website for the district that tells everybody kind of what's happening in real time, SMS alerts, the robocalls, all of it. I know personally I get five different notifications when something happens at my kids' schools, and I like it because you never know what's going on. Something to think about too is the accessibility, right? Not every family is going to have access to tech, nor are they going to be able to read it in English. So keeping those things in mind as you're planning out your communication, and then having things pre-approved. So do you have messaging templates already made that are already proved by whoever maybe your comms person is, or if you don't have that person, you've aligned with somebody who already puts communication out to the community. So it sounds like it's in a controlled setting when it goes out. It's not a chaotic message that's too vague, but it is clear. So you could be sending it out in minutes. And that's why it's so important to have these already templated and pre-approved. And if you don't already have them that way saved in some of your district apps, then it might be something to think about in the summer as you're going into your planning for next year. And then aligning communication. So working with your local responders like your fire and law enforcement could be a huge lifesaver for you in this instance. Making sure that messaging is the same everywhere. So we recommended in the beginning of this presentation to align your communication with some of the levels that this community will be seeing already from the state. So for example, level 1, we're monitoring a nearby wildfire. No action is needed, but we are preparing. So they've seen this imagery before. Now they're seeing it and what that means in regards to their children at the school. Something that we want to emphasize when we talk about same message everywhere is we all know Debbie Downer has her police scanner app up and loves to go on the Facebook community page and start some kind of drama or stir the pot. And so if somebody does something like that, but you're having the same communication out everywhere on your website, on your Parent Square app, on the police's Facebook page, anything like that, then someone can always direct them to there as a source of truth and kind of eliminate and squash those people who love to stir up the drama. We all hate the Debbie Downer. I mean, maybe you don't, but you should. With that, Air quality planning is something to take into account. So obviously we know with wildfires comes smoke. There's many different ways to monitor the AQI. We do have a couple recommendations here: Oregon Smoke Blog, airnow.gov, aqi.oregon. But more importantly, we are suggesting that you have a plan for what happens at what AQI. So like a trigger plan. For example, at 150 AQI, what is supposed to happen or not supposed to happen at your schools? And it might be different for each location. This image on the side here with these flags is kind of a really simple way to look at what you could do as far as an air quality response plan with triggers. This is actually on airnow.gov's website with additional information if you need help trying to make some type of air quality response plan. So we'll drop that link in the chat for you. Um, and aqi.oregon.gov is a great one too. And then this doesn't necessarily have to do with wildfire or the smoke, but I believe that it's relevant for the timing. So we all have to consider heat closure, right? Like the end of school, some of your schools may have been open during that heat wave we had a week or two ago. So making sure you have a response guide or plan for this too, super important. We think the ones who struggle the most are obviously those who have schools without AC. So this is a simple guide that you can use or kind of use as a template if you have some schools that don't have air conditioning, making it very concise, short, and easy to follow. So step one could be if it's hotter than 100 degrees, evaluate what your sites look like and move to step two. If it's not hotter than 90, keep an eye on the weather and see what you're doing. Maybe putting a time frame by 10 a.m. if it's at this temperature, do this. And so let's say it's over 100 degrees outside. What about your classrooms? Measure the classroom. If it's above 84, do this. If it's at this degree to this degree, do this. So then you have something in place and you also communicate this out to your family so then they're aware in the most logical way that you would. And have a plan for them. And then we'll talk about defensible space. So there's a first minute of this video, it will give a little explanation on it, and then some things we can do to help prepare the facilities. Oh, please.
Over the years, the wildfire crisis in Oregon sadly has become a way of life for many who live here. In a matter of minutes, lives can be changed, altered forever. Let's work together to avoid that. There are simple steps we can all take to be better prepared and better protected. One simple thing is giving your home defensible space. During a wildfire, embers can travel several miles from the actual fire front and land, say, in dry pine needles on your roof. If it ignites, it could spell disaster. That's where defensible space comes in. That's the area around your home that reduces or eliminates the things that could catch fire. Defensible space includes things like removing leaves, tree needles, and other debris from your roof and gutters, or making sure trees are spaced and limbs several feet off the ground to reduce the chance of a fire spreading on your property. There are a whole list of things you as a homeowner can do to create that defensible space.
So with defensible space, there's some things that we can do from the school facilities lens that could help create that space to help eliminate any kind of wildfire spreading onto our sites. Best practices we have here are from the fire marshal's website, the state fire marshal's website. The first one is trees should be at least 10 feet away from telephone poles and also buildings and chimneys. If a tree is over 18 feet tall, then use the rule of 1/3 or 6 feet, where there should not be any branches between the ground and the first branch. And then also from tip to tip, trees should be at least 10 feet apart. We'll send a link in the chat for more of these best practices that the Oregon State Fire Marshal has on defensible space through their website. And then what about your buildings? If there's a fire nearby or close enough, and let's say fire crews need somewhere to stay. So not sure if you knew this or not, but there could be a point where you're requested to use have your buildings used for emergency use. So if you haven't thought about this before, I have some maybe thought-provoking questions that could help you kind of prepare a little bit better for that and make sure that you keep everybody in communication about it too. So who gives the approval for the site use? If that person's not there, who's their backup for something like that? There's a lot of vacations happening now, right? Because it can happen outside of the traditional school year too. What about campus maps? Do you have them printed and ready? Does everyone know where they are as far as if they're accessible? What other things can be impacted as far as if the fire camps need to use the football field and there's daily double scheduled that day? What about the overnight facilities crew? If they're planning on redoing the gym floor, but they need to use the floor this weekend, do you set up a camp? And then when everybody's finished, who's in charge of picking everything up and checking for damages, restocking supplies? And then also, do you have an agreement in use? Like, let's say someone comes in, you just like, yes, sure, we totally are with our community. We got each other's backs, come in, use our facilities, but then they come and run through all the bottled water you had stored, all of your toilet paper and paper towels, and they made some big messes on the floors, or maybe some things, there were some accidents throughout the building that have to be taken care of. Who's in charge of paying for that? So having these facilities use agreements are a great way to make sure, just like you would rent out your baseball field to the local youth league, that things are in order and people take the right responsibilities. We have some resources if you're interested or need any of these facility use agreements as well. So let us know. And building your action plans. So making sure that you have evacuation maps that are up to date. Your staff understands what their roles are. It's written out some bit where you're practicing it and talking about it. Your smoke and your heat response protocols are in place. You're communicating that out clearly to your community. You have those kits available that are ready in case something happens and you have to go at once. Updating your plan and then making sure that you're doing your drills, and not only that, but you're debriefing and actually having a conversation afterwards and learning about how you can make things better or more efficient. So to wrap things up, we want to make sure that we're super clear about a couple things for you all to take away. Number one is knowing your evacuation routes, plural, and reunification sites and roles. Preparing now for the season instead of waiting for it to come, which I know we're already in it, but school's going to start back up in a couple months. Predetermine your communication plans, maintain your defensible space, and ensure that your facility staff knows what that means and how they can help. And then be ready for facilities to be used at any moment. Again, my name is Sarah Coley. I'm the Northwest Regional Coordinator for School Safety and Emergency Management at ODE. We have our QR code here. Can also drop our contact info in the chat for my other 3 colleagues throughout the state to help. We not only do things with emergency operation planning, but we also help with any type of drills or facility assessments, site assessments you might need from a safety and security lens. And that is what I got today.
All right. Thanks, Sarah. I'm going to stop the recording here.